Okay, so today we're getting into day 2 notes, congruence. So congruent, we're talking about different shapes here being similar, and congruence being the same measurement. Okay, so congruence, having the same measure. And when I show congruence, I use equal sign with a little squiggly on top. We could talk about angles being congruent and segments being congruent. So let's draw a picture of two angles here. We'll give them letters. I want you to try to draw them so they look, just by the bare eye, they look pretty similar or equivalent. Oh, gonna have to give them different names though. Different letters. So we've got D, E, F, and A, B, C. If I'm going to name these angles and show that they're congruent, if I just look at the pictures, in order to know that they're congruent, you need an additional marking. You need this little arc here to show that those angles are the same measure. Now what they are, we don't know, but we can talk about them and say that they are congruent. So if the first one, I can say that angle B is congruent to angle E. I don't have to list all three letters. I could just do those because there's nothing else when I say angle B. I know I'm talking about this one. Or I could call it by the three letters, right? I could say A, B, C is congruent to angle D, E, F. Recognize that the vertex is the middle letter for both of those. Next part we have is segments. So if I draw a segment, something like this, I'm going to try to draw my middle dot like perfectly in the middle. So I'll say this is RST. If S is directly in the middle, we could call it the midpoint. All right. S being in the middle is cutting that whole segment in half, which gives me RS being the same length or congruent to ST. Now note these are segments, so I can write them in either order, RS or ST. I'll just go left to right. RS, bar over it, is congruent to ST with bar over it. Some more vocabulary terms. In the next section we have parallel. Parallel looks like two vertical lines. We have perpendicular, which looks like an upside down T. Skew and midpoint don't have specific symbols. We just write them in a sentence. So saying two things are skew or two things are. So in a shape, if we have two lines that are parallel, they may draw them like this. And then to denote that those two lines are parallel, they'll put an extra little arrow in the middle of the symbol somewhere to show that those lines are parallel, which means they will never cross. So something specific or a definition for parallel, non-intersecting lines on the same plane. So that's like that picture I just drew there. I could also talk about planes being parallel. So planes that don't intersect. So a picture of a plane, a three-dimensional plane here. Got a square, and I'm going to draw another kind of looking square like this, kind of inside it. Then I'm going to connect the edges. So now we have created a three-dimensional figure, a box. I can label all the edges. Now, even though I didn't put a point on each edge, so A, there's no like real point there, it is still a point. It's a location where those two segments cross each other. So I can say that segment A is parallel to segment, so this one here, is parallel to BC. They are on the same plane. And they intersect each other. AH is also parallel to FE. But FE is not parallel to BC because they're on different planes. Okay, then I could talk about entire planes being parallel just like that tissue box. So I have this entire plane here. I could say that entire plane is parallel to this entire plane here. So again, naming a plane, I need three non-collinear points. So plane AHE is parallel to plane BCD. Okay, the next one is perpendicular. So perpendicular are objects, so typically line or segments, that intersect at 90 degrees. So for a shape, I'm just going to draw two lines that appear to intersect at 90 degrees. I'm going to call one of my lines N, just by lowercase, and the other M. In the figure alone, in order to, I should be looking for a 90-degree angle in one of the corners. Okay? We're not super interested right now that that specifically is 90 degrees. We're not going to write down angle, if I had letters here, ABC is 90 degrees. We're focusing on the lines themselves being perpendicular right now. So if I gave you this picture and I said, what kind of notation can you identify on this figure? You'd say line N is perpendicular to line M. Skew is not intersect lines on different planes. Now there's a lot of ways that this could look. There is no specific symbol for this. Just go ahead and draw your cube again for me. So non-intersecting lines, if I'm looking at this line specifically, then I've got options. This line here that my pen is pointing at, it's on a different plane, but does it touch the pink line? Yeah, it touches. So it is not going to be skew. If I want to find a line that is skew, I'm looking at this one down here, okay? Or this one over here, or this one over here, or here. Could I pick this one here that my pin's pointing at? No, I can't pick that line because it's on the same plane and it's also parallel. So you could point at a couple different lines, but I'll just go ahead and just point at that one. Midpoint. Midpoint is a point halfway between two points on a segment. So it's a point halfway between 2 points on a segment. When you're ready, just draw a segment over here. It's pretty much what we just drew above. This is midpoint. Okay, so midpoint, if I have this figure here, B is on the segment AC and it's directly in the middle. So I could denote that by using the little mark like that. If I like, I don't know, I like the number 2. So if I made this one 2 marks, then I have to make this one 2 marks. They have to be identical. Then I could go ahead and say segment AB is congruent to BC. Notice I'm putting the bar over the top. Something else I could write is I could just write AB is equal to BC. When I use the equal sign, I do not need the bar over the top of it. I know if I'm saying that this is a specific length, it's not a line. I'm talking about a portion of a line, so a segment. Okay, so this next thing is draw the scenario. Be sure to mark all relationships. So it says AB is a line. It intersects ray XY at point B. So let's start by just drawing a line here. A line, and I'm going to put A on it. I'm going to put B on it. AB is intersecting ray XY at point B. So XY is a ray, and it's going to be sharing point B. So I need a ray. Something like that. X is on one side. Y needs to be on the side with the arrow. B is the point where it is intersecting line AB. Part B, it says plane Z contains segment RS and ray CD which intersect at T. Also construct line AD that is non-coplanar to plane Z but intersects it at point D. That's a lot going on. All right. My suggestion with this, break it up into bite-sized pieces and check it off as you do it. And there's no shame in doing it and erasing it and fixing it. All right. That's why I recommend you do pencil. I'm just going to start off with, all of this is on plane Z, so I'm going to start with drawing myself a parallelogram and labeling it with the Z in the lower left or upper left corner. Maybe even check that off as you go so you know I did use that part. Okay, it contains segment RS and ray CD which intersect at point T. So these two pieces are going to be intersecting at point T. So I like to just start with usually my first shape somewhere in the middle, RS. I know that T is where my ray is going to be crossing. It does not have to be in the exact middle, but sometimes that's just how I do it. CD is intersecting this segment. So I have CD coming through here. It's a ray, so I'll put an arrow on one of the ends, point on one of the ends. So you can have the words? So we have a ray here. I know I have a point outside this intersection. I know the intersection point needs to be T. My ray is named CD. This point here where it starts must be what point? It must be C. And then D can be anywhere else this ray. In order to name a ray, you need the starting point and one other point on the ray. Definitions from class. So we have done the RS. We've done the CD. We've got T on there. Now it says, also construct line AD that is non-coplanar, so it's not on the plane, but intersects the plane at point D. So, and it's a line, so I got AD. So I've got the line cutting through the plane like this. Again, it does not have to look exactly like mine, but I'm showing that the line cuts through, it enters the plane at D, it's going underneath the plane in this area, and now we can see it out on the other side over here. A can be anywhere outside the plane, so it could be on the top over here, or it could be on the bottom. I'll just put it here. And double checking that I did use a line, because here it states use a line. Done. Now there's a lot going on there, but just break it up into little pieces. What we're going to do here is we're going to look at the image and we're going to identify the specific markings. So what notation do we have here? So as I look at this first one, I see that I've got some lines and I've got angles created. I have angle markings with 1 mark and I have angle markings with 2 marks. So that says that these two are congruent and these two are congruent. And then I have this box here. Does anyone remember what that box means? 90 degrees. What's important about 90 degrees for us right now? Perpendicular is the important piece. Very good. So let's go ahead and just start with that. What's perpendicular? We have 2 things that are perpendicular to each other. The first one being from V to W. That's perpendicular to XW. All right. You can kind of circle that. If you go back at your picture, like use every single piece possible, you can. Okay, now I have, let's go over these pieces. Both of these angles have 2 marks each. That tells me that they are congruent. All right, so I'm going to say angle STU. Why couldn't I just say angle T? I don't know if angle T is referring to this area or if it's referring to this area. Okay, or someone that looks back at it later may not know. So angle STU is congruent to angle, this angle up here, so S needs to be in the middle, UST. And the last one here, I have these angles that have 1 mark each. Try that on your own. So for this angle V, I need to use 3 letters. So angle WVX is congruent to angle X here. Need 3 letters again. WXV. And I forgot, got to use the angle symbol. Let's start with those angles that are congruent here. So if I just said G, we have no idea what angle I'm talking about. There's a lot going on around that G. So I'm going to say angle, let's go CG, and then I can go either K or B, it does not matter. Okay, it's congruent to angle. If I start with E, G, I can go to L or F, does not matter. We'll go to F that time. So I've used both of these. What else is the same? We've got GC. GCD. Nope, that's an angle, and we don't have anything on this angle here. So this time all I'm left with is segments. So if I have this segment right here, so CD is congruent to, what other segment has 3 marks? ED. Good. And then if I have this segment over here, BK, that has 2 marks on it. Anything else have 2 marks? Yep, LF. All right, when you're ready, go on to, let's go to the one right below it. The one right below it, I noticed 3 things going on. Who can give me one of them? Evan? I see a perpendicular thing right here. So I need to call these by segments. So FE is perpendicular to, I could say ED or I could say the entire segment. Either one is fine. So if you said GD, that's fine. It is perpendicular to the whole thing. Okay, so we've done that one. Now let's talk about the angles. Is it okay if I said angle G this time? Yeah, there's nothing else. So if I said angle G, I know I'm talking specifically about this piece. There's nothing else that angle G could be. Angle G is congruent to angle what? D. This one. The last piece is our segments. We have this marking right here, 3 marks. So segment GD, sorry, that's an H. GH is congruent to CD. Right there. Very good. Last one, and we'll try to draw our own. Last one here, I see 1, 2, 3 important things. Starting off with our parallel. This triangle here and this one here means that those 2 lines are parallel. This top line has an F on it, but no other points. This lowercase q is the name of the line. So I cannot call this FQ because they're not both points. So I have no choice but to call this line, line Q. Line Q is parallel, and this line I could call ED, DE, or I could just say line R. I have to have the word line in front of it though. Now let's talk about segments. We have 2 interesting things about segments. This one here. What do we know about these 2 segments? They're congruent. EF is congruent to DC. The last piece is this 90 degrees angle. What's that denote for us? Perpendicular. Very good. So we have DC is perpendicular to this line down here. That line only has 1 point on it, so what must I call it? Line S. I'm going to give you something, and you're going to draw the first one in this first box. So it says, a ray beginning at point E and passing through M. If you're watching the video, pause it and try to draw it yourself. So a ray beginning at point E, so if I have this here, begins at point E, it's a ray passing through point M. So that just means M is anywhere else on the ray. It could be right next to it. It could be all the way down here. Does not matter. As long as E and M are both on the ray and E is the starting point. Here's the image that they shared. Looks pretty similar to what I just drew. All right, let's do another one. A and line BD that intersects plane A at point P. Give that a shot. So we've got plane A. The line is passing through the plane. It's denoted by the dashed marks. B and D are outside. Okay, it does not matter which way the line is going as long as it's labeled similarly. Segment ME with midpoint B. So it's point, which means is in the exact middle. I have to be in the. What I must also have is I must have these marks saying that B is in the exact middle. Okay. Last one. I want you to try on your own before we start the homework. Congruent segments MN and NP, where points M, N, and P are not collinear. Try to draw that. So here's the one on the paper. Very similar.